Assalamu alaikum. I'm starting a new series, quite different from anything I've done in the past. I'm deliberately making it really non-academic because I have a duty now to disclose and somehow expose some of the problems of my society. It's a criticism and it's got a point to it. The point is to make you value Islam, and if you're a Muslim, to make you cherish it and want more of it. And if you're not a Muslim, to be able to distinctively understand what's wrong and what's going on now. Prophet Muhammad did tell us in the end days that the affairs would be in the wrong hands. He said, "Laysa li ahli." He said the liar would be believed, the trustworthy one would be called a liar, and there would be haraj, there would be a lot of indiscriminate killing. And if you're like me, you've been exposed so much in the past few years, and especially in the past few months, to indiscriminate killing and to so much immorality, whether it be crimes of like white-collar crimes, of embezzlement and outright theft, stealing, misuse of resources, violent crimes. We don't have to go into the gory details because we're all living under stress. And sometimes when we live under stress, we want to release. And that's why I decided to make this video, because sometimes in my threads, I receive clips of ballet, ballroom dancing, things of the past, the old cinematic stars we grew up with. And really it's escapism. And they're so brief, they usually last 2 or 3 minutes at most. And I will fall victim to them because they come constantly. And I do read for most of the day. I read Arabic and I read Quran, but I will admit that I will be suckered into sometime, especially ballet. Why especially ballet, and why is this the focus of tonight's lesson? Because when I was a young girl, my mom wanted me to take ballet lessons. It was the thing to do of a certain socioeconomic class that I was raised in, and I didn't want it. She also forced me to take piano and organ lessons. And we had a large living room, and at one end was an organ, at the other end was the piano. And I was a dutiful daughter. You didn't argue in those days. Your opinion wasn't really valued. You did what your parents told you to do. So I would walk a mile after school to the ballet studio, and I think I was perhaps 11 or 12, 11 maybe. And it was such a waste of my dad's money because really, honestly, I have flat feet. I was always short. And I was the last person that could ever become a ballerina. But I suffered through it for a year. And I was always wishing I could. Fast forward to the future. I posted a ballerina with the caption, "This is Russia's best." And the reason I did that was, it was beautiful. She was beautiful. And I just wanted to shine a light on something other than the nasty, dirty politics. Because Russian ballet is the best. And I was a fan my whole life. Well, didn't I get a response from 2 of my closest friends in Egypt? Both of them are Quran teachers. Both of them wear the black niqab, full top to bottom, as I did for over 20 years there when I was in Egypt. I loved it, by the way. And that leads me to the essence of what I'm going to speak about. They criticized me by saying, "This is inappropriate and not useful for your position as a da'iyah." That's what I am. I call people to Islam. And I teach, if I can, if I'm given the opportunity, I teach Quran in Arabic. So I was a bit taken aback that they posted that, but it was in the Arabic script. So I don't think most people could understand it anyway on my Facebook page. But I responded by saying, this is something that I'm doing. I have a goal in mind, and it's fiqh el-wada'i, meaning this is the type of the fiqh. It means like how do you deal with legal or jurisprudence. We have something called al-fiqh al-wada'i or al-waqai, which means the people that are from that society have more of an ability to deal with what the society needs, and you can say the problems of the society, and then they can go forward in whichever way they see fit, because Allah has told them to do this in the Quran, where Allah has said that everyone from every group should send some people out to learn the deen and then to warn their people when they come back. I said this wouldn't be academic, so we'll do another segment on that exact verse, but it's a verse, it's an order. So I had to face myself and say, look, you have two wonderful women not agreeing with you, and yet you know what you're doing, because the goal that I had in mind for the Ramadan series was going to have to do with a social critique of what's wrong with my country. You see, there's a lot wrong with my country, and I don't want to be involved in political issues or personalities, because I try to follow the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad. And you either teach the Quran and the Sunnah, or if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. However, I had to take a long, hard look at myself in this instance, because nobody's doing this. And I know that there are many qualified scholars that have studied overseas, as I have. They're all men, though. I haven't found any like myself that spent 20 or more years over there and came back and have the, let's say, the experience. I don't want to say ability. Maybe that would be sounding pompous. But I do know the Quran in Arabic, and I have studied it for many, many years. And I have a working, let's say, ability to speak about Islam and its precepts, concepts, whatever. But I'm also 76 years old. So I've lived through generations of the American culture. And whatever caused me to post that ballet photo and to get the response that I received from my well-respected sisters in Islam got me off on a tangent, which I have been wanting to do for years. I wanted to discuss and investigate and expose what has happened in my generation through art, through music, fashion, dance, all forms of expression of self, and how that is in complete contradiction to what you're supposed to be doing if you're a Muslim. So I finally took the responsibility. I made, you can say I made a decision that I'm going to go on my own personal jihad this Ramadan. Because Allah has told us if we can change something, change it with our hands. And if we're not capable, change it with our tongue. And if we're not capable, we hate it in our heart at least. We would want to feel it in our heart that we hated something that Allah hates. We're supposed to love what Allah loves and hate what Allah hates. Well, I truly do hate the crime, the immorality, the violence, the depth that we have reached as a society for many, many, many reasons we've reached that depth. But let's target the main victim as being the media. The media, television, dare I say it was the year I was born, 1947, that television came into being. And now we have our smartphones. And so with all of the proliferation and the objectification of women, what has happened to women's position, I don't think there's anyone capable or able or interested enough in to speak about this from a platform that could be respected by Muslims and non-Muslims alike. I don't think you can listen to what I'm going to tell you in this next half hour without admitting it's true. So let's begin on the subject of the ballet, because that's what started all of this. And tonight I'll try to focus on it, and then I'll do the music later, and the art. But Plato did say, Plato, the Greek philosopher that's well recognized as being some form of intellectual, he said, if you want to change a people, change their music. That's how much he felt it was a deep effect on the hearts and minds, music, as we know it is. But tonight I'm focusing on the ballet because my mom was, convinced that I'd be a ballerina, and I never could for the reasons I previously mentioned. And I always wanted to be one, crazy young girl, because it was some form of beauty and fantasy that you could almost lose yourself in it. The beautiful costumes and the music and the skill of the dance and so forth. Now, why is that a problem? First of all, you don't wear many clothes as a ballerina. Islam teaches us to be shy as women. But something happened. We call it ghazwat fikri or tahwil al-fitra. Ghazwat fikri means a battle of your mind. Ghazwa comes from Gaza. Yes, the situation in Palestine is truly a battle. So when you think of what I'm teaching you now, it's got to do with a ghazwat fikri, a battle of the intellect, and tahwil al-fitra. Tahwil, from hawala, wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah. There is no change except by the will of Allah. Tahwil of the fitr, of the instinct that Allah has put in girls to be shy and to be, you can say, reticent to take off their clothes. Well, what happened to us was the exact opposite of that, whether it be through the classical ballet or now, what can I say? I mean, what can I say? I mean, it started with Tina Turner and it worked its way up through Beyonce, and now we have Cardi B, we have Megan, whatever, Stallion. It's really nasty now. So it's gone from, you can say, in 50 odd years, something that was innocent, you can say a little romantic song with Frank Sinatra or I don't know, Tony Bennett, Andy Williams, the crooners, and there was some romance involved on the screen, the cinema, where it was all love and sincere devotion, dare I say passion. And now it has evolved into really gutter behavior with the way people dance now, that whatever is tweaking and whatever is considered to be what everyone wants to do, what everyone does. Senior citizens all the way down to toddlers, you see them trying to copy this tweaking phenomena, which is disgusting. Now, would you even be aware of that if you weren't a Muslim? Well, if you were from my generation, you might admit there's something drastically wrong with the way people have no shame. I mean, now you can watch pornography for free. And it's coming to the point where women, not only do they not want to marry, they don't want to have children, they don't find it wrong to be only girls. It's really, it's over the top, distressing and disturbing to me, which is why I'm going to try to expose it. Now, critique is, I think it's allowed. I can criticize without being frowned upon as subversive. It's my country. I grew up here and didn't leave the country to go over to Egypt until I was 40 years old. And then I would come back every summer for 4 months, so that I was never really, really that distant from America. However, most of my time spent studying and wearing the full black niqab took my mind to another place, to a more serious place, a far better place, actually. So that when I was criticized for just a clip or 2-minute clip of a ballerina, I thought to myself, there is such a vast chasm separating the Muslim societies from the American society. And that leaves me somehow, by default, that I have to participate in trying to fill this void of information and understanding, at least in my own little way, senior citizen, woman. I hardly ever leave the house because I don't want to. I want to read. That's all I ever wanted to do was read. I never played sports. As I told you, I was a failure in ballet and piano lessons and organ lessons. I hated all of it. I just wanted to go somewhere and read books. Every day after school, I wouldn't go home because my 5 Irish brothers were always creating chaos of some sort. So I would walk to the library and I would find the farthest corner I could. And in those days, oh my, Robbins Library in Arlington Center, what a beautiful place. Fat, cozy, oversized leather chairs. And, you would go up to the second floor and the third floor, and you could just hide away and read fairy tales, which was my preference. Escapism. But you can't escape as an adult. You have to involve yourself somewhere, somehow, to be honest and say, enough. Enough reading, enough, I can't ever say enough memorizing Quran, but there's a whole wide world out there that has to wake up. And we say in Arabic, خلي قبل ما تملي. You have to remove before you insert. So if I'm going to be successful on, let's say, a wider platform, in calling people to the solution, and Islam is the solution. It's the solution to the extreme diseases that are in the modern, shall I say, world, not just West. We are in trouble. And Islam has the solution. There's an impending race war going to happen. I'm living in the southern part of America now. I'm living in Florida. But I was born and raised in the Northeast. It doesn't matter anymore. The problems are so vast that they literally encompass every facet of what it means to be an American. You're not protected anymore in your gated communities. There are drug deals going on under your nose everywhere you're breathing. And not only that, but surgeons use cocaine. I mean, I don't want to go off on all of the information that I managed to really be able to hear and believe, because I have a social circle that comprises many different types of people. And most of them are trustworthy. So if you thought that by living in a certain area or having a certain socioeconomic status, that you're going to be able to escape what's happening now, you cannot. And it's endemic, the way everyone is distant from any form of really human connection, or any really respectful human endeavors that could benefit society at large. This is really, really a selfish, hedonistic time that we're living in. And so, in order to expose the depth of the problem, which I consider to be dangerous, we are in a time of, it's fitna. Yes, it is fitna. Allah has created this fitna for us to see whom do we worship. He's given us the method, the only method that's going to work, which is going to be either become a Muslim or to turn back to whatever form of moral behavior you learned in the church or in the synagogue or wherever you studied something otherworldly, non-materialistic, something that has substance, like honesty, bravery, modesty, and stop chasing what we call ladha al-hayat ad-dunya, the pleasures of the flesh. What happened to marriage? Suddenly you turned around and it was gone. What happened to chastity? Well, that went by the wayside when the pill was invented. Do you know now we have the immediate abortion pill, which is being distributed as we speak in Massachusetts and Rhode Island? This is not very good. This is very, 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 this is murder. It is murder. Because whatever anyone tells you, the minute there is life and there is motion, this is a living soul. Now you're just going to be able to walk into CVS and Walgreens and get the killer pill. How does this relate to ballet? Because the ethereal, unattainable dream that we were raised with, well, part of it was the Barbie doll, wasn't it? There's another demonic element that our sweet little girls, myself included, were raised with, these fairy tales. As I told you, I loved them. But now that I look back, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Rapunzel, Let Down Your Hair, all of this was an attack on the feminine side of Allah's creation, called the untha, the female, and to turn it into something unreachable, unattainable, which revolves around how beautiful are you, how slender are you, how desirable are you, shall I say? I mean, think about the 50s and the 60s. Think about the Playboy magazines. Think about how now you don't need that anymore. Everything's free and available, and totally wicked. I'll use that word. We have to face ourselves in the mirror now. We have to look in the mirror and say, who am I? What am I going to do about it? And in which sphere will I be most beneficial to the most people? So this series I'm starting is going to include an attack on those responsible for trying to change the basic nature and instincts that Allah has given us. I think you know where I'm heading. And I don't care who likes it or who doesn't like it, because Allah has ordered me to fight the enemy. So I've determined for myself how to do that. And the enemy, remember, Satan has promised to embellish evil and make it seem beautiful. And we know how that works. There's no such thing as sin anymore. Well, in Islam, it's quite clear what sin is. Sin is what Allah has told you to stay away from. He's told you Satan is your open enemy, and take him as such. So if I can't go over to Palestine and fight with my hands, at least Allah has given me the ability to speak, and He's also given me the privilege of understanding His mighty words. And they come from Quran, and they come from the Sunnah. But I'm going to take a different tactic with this series. I want this series to be understood, and I want every American my age will be the best because they'll know exactly what I'm talking about, but all American, especially women, to recognize what was done to you so that you wouldn't be the kind of woman that you could be, and be a strong, upright woman. You know, the types of women that built the country 100 years ago. And now we have a cesspool. Children neglected, children trafficked, children who are literally not allowed to object to the sewer system, which is called the public education now we have. I could go on, but I'm going to cut it off here. And I'll see you tomorrow, and we'll go into more detail exposing your enemy, because that's the first step to change. You have to know your enemy. You have to know the tactics he uses. And then you have to form your own arsenal of weapons. And you can do this. Of course, as a Muslim, you would do this better. But you don't have to be a Muslim to listen to this. You can just take as your guide that there is a creator above you. And that creator is never going to leave you without a lesson plan or a game plan, or however you want to put it. So we know that the Quran was revealed. مُصَدِّقًا لِمَا بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ. It was revealed to those who got the Torah, who got the Injil, the Old and New Testament. So that the Christians here in this country ought to understand that we know what's best for them. And we're not forcing anyone to become Muslim. We're just trying to show them that what they're doing now, in this kind of silence that is overwhelming, like, you know, who was it? Some singer? See, I'm going to bring all of this in my future lessons. I'm going to give you the lyrics of how you were brainwashed. But Lupe Velasco said, the silence is worse than the violence. Imagine what the children are thinking when they themselves are living, 8 hours a day in these, I can't find a word enough to describe how the children are suffering child abuse and what they're doing to their pure little instinctual, beautiful, innocent selves in the school system. I want everyone to become, I don't want to say enraged. Upset is good enough. And I don't know how we're going to call the powers that be to account in this election year. For me, there's only one power. So I don't believe in powers that be. I believe in illusions that would like you to believe they're powerful. Anyway, there's so much I have to say. So get ready, because you're either going to love this series, cultural media series, or you're going to say that woman is really living in a different time. She's too old. She's living in the past. She's dreaming. Yes, I have a dream. I do. I know that America can come back in a much better fashion than it is right now. This total vindictive, hateful, hurtful type of slandering people is wrong. We're not supposed to engage in that kind of talk. Better to just expose what's happening and then deal with it in a civil fashion. That's what I'm going to try and do. So, how long have I talked? A half an hour. I have to go. I promised myself. But see you tomorrow, inshallah. And Ramadan Kareem. Get ready for the fast. It's beautiful. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.